What's going on, everybody? I know you've been waiting for this one. We're going to be getting back into our Launch Monitor Mastery series, talking about number 4 here today, centeredness. Let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? Scott Oden coming at you. We are going to be talking about how do we make center contact here. That is Launch Monitor Mastery number 4. So we're going to get a real deep dive into it. If you haven't seen this series before, we're going through the 5 numbers on a launch monitor that you really can control. So make sure you check out those first 3 videos. I will link those in the cards above. So make sure you check those out, and make sure you click that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber so you can see the last video. And then we're gonna have more with helping you get better using your device and just playing better golf. That's what we wanna do here on the channel. So let's get into centeredness of hit. So I know this is gonna be number 4 on the list. Now, to be fair, this is my most important thing that you should be working on in your golf game because it has such a massive influence on what you're going to be able to do with the golf ball. So it's really important. I think one of the things, I actually just saw a video, they did a forgiveness long drive challenge for TaylorMade with their new driver, whatever with marketing, but I highly recommend you go check that out. I'll link it down below. You're going to see some of the best ball strikers in the world, and just watch how hard it is for them to miss the center of the face. They are so ridiculously good at it, and it's something that we definitely want to get better at. So what is the reasoning that we work on this club face and this centeredness of hit? Well, there are certain things as you start building up a golf swing that are going to control how your club is moving into the golf ball. And if you start controlling those things, you're going to start realizing that you have a pretty good golf swing that can be very, very efficient, and it can control the golf ball really well. So the things that we want to see and the reason we want to work on centeredness of hit is going to be a couple of things. One, it's going to affect the ball speed that comes off. So ultimately that does affect your distance. You want to have a consistent and predictable ball speed. It's also going to affect the spin rate. That's going to have an effect on how far the ball goes. You also want to work on your trajectory. If you're hitting the ball high or low on the face, it's going to come off high or low. So you're going to see that ball traveling a varying trajectory. I see that one a lot with people when they find, all right, I'm going to hit a club, and then they hit it high in the face and it comes up short. That happens a lot out of the rough. So that's another reason you're looking at it. Now, how good do you want to be with your centeredness of hit? Well, best ball strikers in the world, you're looking at about plus or minus 0.3 of an inch. So they are pretty much nailing a spot the size of a dime on that club head. And if you ever get a chance to see some irons, go look them up online, some old irons. There's going to be a wear mark on those irons that is just tiny as we're looking through it. And I know for me, it's something I need to work on. And I know for a lot of players, they need to work on it as well. So that's kind of some of the things that we're looking at. Now, there's also some ball flight considerations that we need to take into account. So let's go ahead. Let's break down what happens when you hit the ball in different parts of the club so you can kind of start reading your shots if you're out there and understand what's going to happen. All right, so as we look at a club face, we've got a driver here, but what we're going to look at is, we'll show an iron in a sec. The driver is going to have more dramatic effects. When we're looking at a club head, we can essentially break up a club into a grid of 9 points as we're going through this. So you would have the heel, top, middle, bottom, center, and the toe, top, middle, bottom. Okay, so when we're hitting the ball in different spots, you're going to get different results. So if we hit it dead center, we're going to get the maximum amount of ball speed, okay, because that's where the club has the maximum kind of trampoline effect that's going to send the golf ball. You're also going to get the most predictable spin, where you're going to get a very reliable spin on the golf ball. So it's going to be within a really good range, usually a couple hundred RPMs as you're hitting it. And then you're also going to get a very predictable trajectory. When we look at a golf club, the head is actually kind of curved, right? So it's got like this look like you're hitting a ball. So if you ever taken like a basketball and like hit another ball, if you hit it dead center, that ball goes straight ahead. If you hit it on the top, it goes up. Hit it on the bottom, it goes down. Same thing kind of happens with the driver. So when we start moving up, if we stay in the center, what happens is if you go to the top part of the club, you're actually going to get a ball that takes off a little higher. You are going to lose a little bit of club head speed, maybe a mile or 2 per hour, right? But it's going to just kind of depend on how bad the hit is and what driver, honestly, you have. then you also are going to start losing a little bit of spin. As you go to the top part of the driver, you lose a little bit of that backspin. So it actually can be a good thing. I kind of like hitting the ball on the high toe because that's going to send it up with less spin. I tend to have a lot of spin, so I can get kind of that high launch, flatter kind of ball flight. So it can work out pretty nice. And you can sometimes hit it farther. Even though you have less ball speed, the offset of a higher launch with less spin, you sometimes get better flight and you can actually hit it farther. So it's just something that you want to monitor and look at as you're going through. So if you stay in the middle and you hit it on the bottom, that ball is going to take off lower and it's going to have backspin. So you're going to lose some ball speed for the off-center hit. You're also going to increase your spin. So this is designed, because it's taking off lower, that you want to try to keep the ball in the air. It's going to help you try to lift the ball so it doesn't just bury in the ground. The problem is you are going to lose all this distance. The bottom part of the club is where you're going to start hitting the ball really short. Okay, so we tend to try to stay away from that part of the golf club if we can. Now, when we move to the heel of the club, the heel, we're going to see some of the same effects on the toe and the bottom part of the club, as far as getting some spin and, seeing the top and the bottom as far as club speed and all that. But when we go to the heel, you can start the ball is going to want to start left. So there's something called gear effect. It's going to start moving the ball to the right. The ball is going to spin. So whenever you spin it to the right, this is why slicers hit the ball shorter. You're going to add a ton of spin. So not only if you hit it on the bottom heel, you're going to add spin just because you're hitting it on the heel, and you're adding spin because it's on the bottom, and you're losing ball speed. This is where you're going to hit it really, really short, okay? You're also going to hit it short. You're going to be adding spin because you're hitting it on the heel, probably net zeroing it out maybe with the fact that you're hitting it on the top, but it's not going to be great, okay? And then obviously we're going to have just a little bit of a fade if you hit it on the heel. You might still get it out there a little bit, but you're going to definitely lose some distance because you're adding spin for that heel cut type spin that you get. Conversely, if you go over to the toe, you're going to start getting more of a draw spin because the ball is going to want to take off right and curve back. So if I say, let's say I want to hit it high and on the toe, I'm going to lose a little bit of speed, but I'm going to actually, because I'm hitting it higher in the face, it's going to launch higher. I can start taking some spin off, and because I'm hitting it on the toe where I'm going to get a little draw spin, that's typically going to, result in a little bit of a less backspin type of shot. So I can actually take a lot of spin off it. So you might hear some guys say, hey, I'm going to hit this ball like I hit a toe goer or something like that. That's what they kind of mean there. If they hit like a heel spinner, that's what they mean when they're hitting the ball on that part of the face. Again, if you hit it in the middle, you're going to hit some sort of draw spin. You're going to also, if you hit it on the toe bottom, you're going to typically see some sort of draw spin, and then it's going to increase in spin, so it might just net out as you go. Essentially, if you could stay away from the bottom of the club, that's usually a good thing. Now, that is to be fair. You've got to make sure this is within reason. If you hit it way off on to either side, that gear effect is going to get overridden by just the fact that you had such a poor shot. So keep that in mind. We're talking about like hitting it here or hitting it here, as we're going through. We're not talking about getting too far off of the center as we go. So that's what you see with a wood as you go through that. So now we've got an iron. So with an iron, you're going to see a little bit less of the gear effect where, like, if you hit it on the toe, the ball is going to curve back. So simply things that you got to know about irons, right? Obviously, we want to hit it in the middle of the face. Our iron play, we want to see the ball take off with consistent ball speed so we know how far it's going, consistent spin so it knows how far it's going, and consistent trajectory so we can judge how far it's going. That's kind of the name of the game, right? So we want to try to hit it in the center. If you hit it with irons, there's not a lot of mass typically on the edges of irons. You got all your weight, especially if you have like a blade like I play, there's more mass in the middle. So if I hit it on the edges, it just feels dead. I'm going to lose a ton of ball speed because there's just nothing there to have this hit happen. And then what ends up happening is, as I go through, we kind of have the same grid type, but you just kind of lose some of it because there's just not as much mass. But if I hit it high on the face, ball is going to go high. it's going to come out kind of dead, and it's going to have less spin. So it kind of just goes up. It has not a lot of speed, typically comes up way short, and then it just kind of plops, falls out of the air because it doesn't have any spin to stay in the air. So you usually will see that from the rough. I see a lot of people hit wedges that way, just in general, even from the fairway. So they wonder why they can't hit the ball, certain ways and get distance out of it. It's usually because they're doing that. If I hit it on the bottom of the face, I'm going to hit it lower, going to lose spin. I'm also, technically I'm going to gain ball speed because I'm kind of knifing it. This is where it gets a little tricky. But if I hit it thin, reasonably thin, I'm going to lose some ball speed, and I'm going to actually get a little bit more of that spin. But there's kind of a really fine line on that one. And then if you're hitting on the heel or the toe, you're really going to lose ball speed and you're going to lose spin. So what you typically see is if you hit it on the heel, the ball takes off left. If you hit it on the toe, ball takes off right. Or if you flip that around for your lefties, you do the opposite. It's really just going to be a shot that does that. So it's affecting really your direction a lot. You're not going to see too much of that gear effect that's coming back. This is also why, when we're talking about this, club fitting is going to have a big impact on what's going on for some people. If you can't hit the center of the face, they have what's called perimeter weighted irons. What they have is what's called a high moment of inertia. We talked about this in our video with Strix on Cleveland. It's going to have a lot of weight on the edges of the club, on the perimeter. So if you hit it off the edge, you got some mass out there to still send that ball. Keep the ball speed up, even though you didn't hit it in the center. But obviously, if you can work on hitting it in the center, that is going to be the best thing for your golf game. So that's what you want to try to do. All right, so let's get into now how can we control this. We talk about why it's important, what you're trying to do. So let's talk about how we can actually control this. So there's going to be a couple of gimmies right off the bat. So first off, it's going to be your intent. I see if people are trying to like scoop the ball or they're trying to like crash down on the ball, that's going to affect how you're able to hit the center of the face. A lot of times, like a scooper, you're going to hit it on the bottom, stuff like that. So you really want to have a good intent that, hey, I'm going to let the club get down to the bottom of the ball. That's going to be a big one. Also, club fitting, that's going to have a big effect as well in all of this. So those are a couple things there. Your low point, that's going to have an effect as well. How you're swinging your paths and your planes, that's going to have an effect as well. That's why this is number 4 on that list, because those things do come into play a little bit. So as we're going through, what I like to look at is a couple things. One, you got to think, I need to have structure to my swing if I want to consistently hit the center of the face. If I'm going back and everything's like all over the place, you're going to have issues. There's not some reason or rhyme or reason to what you're doing. You're going to have some issues with what's going on and hitting the center. Now, the other things that we want to look at is there are going to be some radiuses that we want to control. So essentially the distance we are having this club away from us or from our body or our body from the ball, those are things that we want to control. So there's 4 major ones that we want to look at. So the first one is going to be the club head from our hands, and we call it the midpoint. So it's essentially where the hands join on the grip. Now, let's talk a little bit about that. So the distance from those we want to control. Now, if I go ahead and I have my setup here, if I take the grip and I push it up, so essentially it's changing, right? Watch what happens to the club head. The club head's going to move in this way. So it's going to move in, you're going to be more likely to hit it on the toe, okay? This is one that I struggle with. If I were to actually do the opposite and lower, the club head's going to move that way. So I'm going to be more likely to hit it on the heel or get some sort of shank. Okay, so when I'm hitting balls, I do like to see if we can try and control that angle of our wrists and our hands as we're going through. If we can do that, we're going to be a little bit better at making that strike. Now, I mentioned I struggle with the handle going up. Where do I strike it? I tend to strike it on the toe. Okay, so that's just something that I see. But that's one way I could work on getting this to be better. And that's probably my primary way to hit the ball more in the center of the face. Now, the second one that we're looking at is we want to actually control the distance of our hands and where our elbow is, specifically our trail elbow. Okay, so you got to think of it this way. I've taken my grip, my hands are set up, my elbow is bent. Okay, when I go back, I've got to control that elbow. So I want to feel like it stays pretty much the same bent throughout. What I see a lot of people do is they actually will fold it up too much, okay, or they'll straighten it out, okay. Then they go back, they start coming down, they straighten it early, all of that. We want to try to control where that elbow is at throughout our swing. So again, if I go through, feeling like it's pretty bent as we are going through. So that one felt pretty good, again, slightly on the toe, but that's something that we'll do. I might need to look at my golf clubs as we go through this too. We might find that. So controlling that elbow is a big one. Okay, so going through and making some swings, controlling that. The third one's going to be where that elbow is in relation to my torso. So again, when I get set up, when I'm here, my trail elbow is basically at my side, right? So I'm going to go back, make my swing, and as I come in, I really want it to be pretty much at my side as I go through to hit this ball, okay? Where people have problems are, they let it get out in front, okay? They let it get way behind. They do something like this. It's no longer at my side, right? You will have some issues where you get this club head moving in a really weird way. So again, I see a lot of this one early out. Club is way out here. They're going to hit it on the heel. I also see people that are trying to lead with their hands. They shove this elbow way out in front. Body's not moving. They got problems, okay? They start shanking the ball when they do that. So what we want to see is controlling the elbow bend, but also the position it is relative to my body. So we'll do that. My hand's pushed up a little bit there. I think we'll be a little on the toe. There we go. So that's just going to be something I need to work on. Now, the last one's going to be, where are we as far as the radius from our body to the ball? So when we're looking at a swing, we actually look at our spine, and we're going to look at the top of our spine. We're essentially looking where you have what's called the cervical spine and you have the thoracic spine. So where that basically joins, that's going to be what we are looking at. So right up here, basically at the base of your neck, that's going to be our next radius point. So when I get set up, I'm going to have my setup. I've got a distance from the ball that my neck is at, okay? Now when I go back, my goal is to try to control that. And when I go through, trying to control that. That's going to make it easier for me to be able to get the club to make center contact. What do I see? I mean, I see everything. You see people early extend. Now this has moved up, okay? You got to do other things. You're going to see people that try to keep their head down. They're actually getting closer. What we really want to see is that neck actually be up, your head up, so your body can turn underneath. And I think when a lot of people do this, they realize that their head's going to move. That's fine. As long as you keep that distance with the top of your spine, that's going to be what allows you to make a good shot. So it would look something like this as we go through, okay? That one wasn't too bad. Again, just a little on that toe as we go. So as we are looking at this though, what you'll see is there's 4 things there. You don't necessarily have to do all of them. Like I said, I tend to stand the handle up. So then what do? I kind of counteract that by letting this elbow go out. Not what I would like. I would love for everything just to work together, but you can make compensations that would work as you're going through this. So how would you actually train this? Well, I would honestly do what we just did. I think if people were to just start, once you get your grip and you get set up, if you can just set up here, feel the angle of the wrists, okay, right here, feel the elbow, feel where it's related to your side, and just feel like you stay the same height, and you go through and make swings, I think you're going to find that you're going to get somewhere close. Now, I hit that one a little on the toe, not great, but I love to have people making these swings where they just feel everything stay together. They're just trying to make sure, hey, I need to make sure that I'm keeping those radius and those angles. So we start pretty small. If we're doing good, we will start making our way up. Now, if we have somebody that's doing some of these things, but they still can't hit the center, we're going to start looking at some of the other factors. Now, for me, is my low point good? It feels pretty good, but I'm going to tell you this right now. If we go ahead and pull up our data, so let's do that. My club path, okay, is not bad, a little to the right, but I'm going to see that face kind of shutting down hard, like really hard. So what's happening is I'm kind of coming in at an angle and I'm getting that toe to the ball essentially first. That's what's happening as I go through. So I'm just really shutting it. So if I take that, let's go ahead, take some of that info. Let's go ahead. I'm swinging it pretty good out. Let's try to keep that face open. Little better. So not as bad, but you can see actually I kept the face more open and I moved it really out. So it's going to take a little bit of balancing act as you go through, but you can manipulate some of this stuff. And it's not just random, oh, I hope I hit the middle. You know what to control, you will be able to make that go. So again, control the radius, and then you can start throwing in a couple of the other things and see what you can do. So again, one of the biggest separators from elite ball strikers to just somebody that can hit the ball well, or for your players that are really kind of struggling, is going to be the centeredness of hit. So you want to pay attention to it. You want to, if you are really truly going to be an elite player, you want this thing to be tight, okay? You saw I can play at about a scratch level. You can see how much mine varies, right? So I need to tighten that up compared to a world-class player. And if I want to have confidence that I'm going to get over it, hit the ball, see the ball go the right distance, all of that, I got some work to do. But I can work on those things because I know what I'm going to work on to control things. So we'll get there. It's just going to be a little bit of practice and drilling it. So great to have some feedback with it. If you don't have feedback like face impact, foot spray always is a great option. It just gets everywhere, but it's a great one. And you can also look at smash factor, see how fast the ball is coming off. That's not going to tell you where you're hitting it, but it might clue you in that, hey, I'm not making the greatest contact because that ball is coming off a lot slower compared to what my club speed is. So might give you a little indication as you're going through it. But again, if you have questions about it, please leave a comment down below. And as always, click that subscribe button. We got one more of these series coming up, and then we got some fun things coming up to help you get better. You're not going to want to miss out on those. And as always, thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.